Come, settle in. Let the weight of the day fall away, like a heavy cloak slipping from your shoulders. Find the quiet rhythm of your own breath, a gentle tide rising and falling within you. The world outside, with its hurry and its noise, can fade now. Here, in this space, there is only the soft glow of a single candle flame, and the beginning of a story. A story as old as the search for meaning, as quiet as a secret whispered from one generation to the next. This is not a story of grand battles or sudden revelations. It is a slow, meandering river, flowing through the heart of history. It is the calm history of alchemy. Our journey begins long, long ago, in a land cradled by a great river, a ribbon of life in a sea of sand. This was the land of Kumagome, ancient Egypt, a name that meant Asenak, the Black Land. Miganban, it was named for the rich, dark silt. The Nile gifted the earth each year after its flood. This black soil was a miracle. From this dark, seemingly lifeless mud, all life sprang forth. The green shoots of barley, the swaying papyrus reeds, the vibrant lotus flowers. For the people of Kem, this was the first and greatest lesson in transformation. They saw that from darkness and decay came life and beauty. From the end of something came a new beginning. This was the seed, the very first whisper of alchemy. The priests of ancient Egypt were the keepers of this secret knowledge. In the cool, shadowed halls of their temples, decorated with hieroglyphs of gods and stars, they practiced their sacred arts. They were masters of substances. They knew how to draw out brilliant colors from dull minerals to paint the walls of tombs. They knew the secrets of glass, making it clear as desert air, or as blue as the Nile itself. They were masters of metallurgy, coaxing copper and gold from the earth, metals they believed held the essence of the sun and the heavens. And most profoundly, they practiced the art of embalming, a meticulous, ritualistic process that was itself a form of alchemy. They sought to preserve the physical body, believing it was a vessel for the eternal soul, the Ike, and the Asterix Bay. In their quiet, incense-filled workshops, they would work with salts and resins, oils and linens, transforming a perishable form into an enduring monument. This was a physical act with a deeply spiritual purpose, to cheat decay, to honor the eternal, to prepare the soul for its journey through the underworld and into the light of the afterlife. They were transforming matter to serve the spirit. The goal was not just to preserve, but to perfect, to make the vessel worthy of eternity. Imagine a priest, his hands stained with natron and fragrant oils, working by the light of a flickering lamp. His movements are slow, deliberate, a meditation in motion. He is not merely a craftsman. He is a guardian of a sacred threshold. He understands that the body is a microcosm, a small reflection of the great cosmos. Just as the sun god Ra died each night and was reborn each morning, so too could the human spirit undergo its own transformation. The physical work on the body was a mirror of the spiritual work required of the soul. This was the duality at the heart of Egyptian wisdom, the tangible and the intangible, the body and the soul, the black earth and the golden sun, forever linked in a cycle of death and rebirth. This sacred knowledge was attributed to a great teacher, a god of wisdom and writing named Thoth. The Egyptians depicted him with the head of an ibis, a bird that would dip its long beak into the dark mud to find nourishment. Thoth was the scribe of the gods, the keeper of secrets, the one who understood the hidden language of the universe. He was the first alchemist. As centuries flowed by like the Nile itself, the wisdom of Kem began to mingle with the thoughts of a new people, the Greeks. In the bustling, sun-drenched city of Alexandria, a great port where ships and ideas from all over the world came together, a new kind of thinking was born. The practical, ritualistic arts of the Egyptians met the philosophical inquiries of the Greeks. The Greeks were not content to simply know how to do something. They longed to understand why. Think of a young Greek scholar, perhaps named Lysinus, walking through the colonnades of the great library of Alexandria. The air is warm and smells of sea salt and papyrus. He is surrounded by hundreds of thousands of scrolls. the collected wisdom of the known world. He has studied the teachings of Plato, who spoke of a world of perfect forms, a divine blueprint of which our world is but a shadow. He has read Aristotle, who taught that all matter was composed of 4 elements: earth, water, air, and fire. These elements, Aristotle believed, were not fixed. They could be changed, one into another. Cold and dry earth could become cold and wet water. Hot and wet air could become hot and dry fire. Lycinus sits in a quiet courtyard, a scroll unfurled on his lap. He looks at a simple clay pot. To the Egyptians, it was a vessel. To a craftsman, it was earth and water, shaped and then hardened by fire. But to Lycinus, it was a philosophical puzzle. If all things were made of the same 4 elements, just in different proportions, then could not one substance be transformed into another? Could not a common metal, like lead, which was heavy and dull, mostly earth, be transformed into gold, which was bright and incorruptible, a perfect balance of all the elements, filled with the essence of fire? This was not a question of greed. For Lycinus and the thinkers like him, gold was not merely a currency. It was a symbol of perfection, of permanence, of incorruptibility. It did not tarnish or rust. It shone with the light of the sun. To create gold from a lesser metal would be to achieve a miracle. It would be to perfect matter itself, to raise it from its fallen, imperfect state to one of divinity. It would be proof that a human being could understand and participate in the divine work of creation. In the dusty workshops and hidden laboratories of Alexandria, the first true alchemists began their work. They adopted the Egyptian name for their art, Kantor, Kanserical, the art of the Black Land. And they took the Egyptian god Thoth and merged him with their own messenger god, Hermes. They called him Hermes Trismegistus, Hermes the Thrice Great, and they believed he was the author of a series of sacred texts that held the key to all transformation, both material and spiritual. Their laboratories were filled with strange and beautiful equipment. There were glass vessels called alembics, with their long, graceful necks designed for distillation, for separating the pure spirit of a substance from its coarse body. There was the Keratakis*, a device for gently heating and sublimating metals, its vapors rising and condensing like a soul ascending and returning. These were not just tools, they were sacred instruments, designed to mimic the processes of nature, the gentle heat of the sun, the slow evaporation of water, the cyclical nature of life itself. The goal of these Hellenistic alchemists was twofold, a reflection of the Egyptian duality. On one hand, they sought the Chrysopoeia*, the making of gold. But on the other, deeper hand, they sought something far more profound. They believed that as they worked to purify metals, they were also working to purify their own souls. The slow, patient, and often frustrating work of the laboratory was a spiritual discipline. It required patience, humility, and a deep, meditative focus. To transform lead into gold, the alchemist first had to transform himself. He had to burn away his own impurities, his greed, his impatience, his ego, in the gentle fire of his furnace, which he called the Athenor. So as our scholar Lycinus works late into the night, the only sounds being the soft bubbling of a liquid in a flask and the distant call of a night bird, he is not just a chemist. He is a mystic. He is searching for the prima materia, the first matter, the formless, chaotic substance from which the entire universe was born. He believes that to create something new, you must first return to the very beginning. You must break a substance down, dissolve it into its original unformed state, before you can rebuild it into a more perfect form. This process of dissolution, of breaking down, was the first and most crucial step. It was a kind of death. The alchemist would take a solid metal or mineral and dissolve it in powerful acids, turning it into a dark, murky liquid. He would grind it into a fine black powder. This was a necessary darkness, a return to the black soil of the Nile, the fertile chaos from which new life could emerge. It was a difficult and often frightening stage, for it seemed like an act of destruction. But the alchemist knew that in every end, there is a beginning. He was simply echoing the great rhythm of the cosmos, the seed that must decay in the earth to become a flower, the caterpillar that must dissolve in the chrysalis to become a butterfly, the sun that must die in the west to be reborn in the east. And so, the foundations were laid. In the mystical rites of Egypt and the philosophical inquiries of Greece, alchemy was born. It was a quest for transformation, a sacred art and a practical science, a path to perfecting matter and a mirror for the purification of the soul. It was a quiet, patient work, carried out in shadowed temples and dusty workshops, by those who believed that the entire universe was a single, living entity, and that by understanding the smallest part of it, one could come to understand the whole. The journey had just begun, a slow river of knowledge starting its long and winding course through the landscape of time. Let your mind drift with this current. Feel the warmth of the Egyptian sun, the cool stone of the Alexandrian library. The story is in no hurry. It has all the time in the world. And so do you. Just breathe, and let the river carry you. The great library of Alexandria, that beacon of knowledge, eventually flickered and died. Its scrolls were scattered, its wisdom seemingly lost to the fires of conflict in the sands of time. But knowledge is not so easily destroyed. Like a seed carried on a gentle wind, the secrets of alchemy drifted eastward, across the deserts of Arabia and into the heart of Persia. Here, in what would become the Islamic Golden Age, the seed found fertile ground once more. The scholars of the Islamic world were not just conquerors, they were preservers and innovators. They had a profound respect for the wisdom of the ancients. They sought out the old Greek and Egyptian texts, translating them with meticulous care into Arabic. In cities like Baghdad, Damascus, and Cordoba, great houses of wisdom flourished, becoming centers of learning that shone brightly in a world that was, in many places, falling into darkness. Here, the art of chemia received a new name. The Arabs added their definite article al to the word, and it became alchemia. From this we have our word, alchemy. But it was more than just a change of name. The Islamic alchemists brought a new level of rigor, experimentation, and deep philosophical insight to the art. Let us imagine one such alchemist, a man known to history as Jabir ibn Hayyan, or Geber in the West. He is not a grand figure in a palace, but a quiet, devout man, working in a modest laboratory attached to his home. The air is dry and smells of strange herbs and minerals, of the gentle smoke from his ever-burning furnace. For Jabir, alchemy is a form of prayer, a way of glimpsing the divine order hidden within the material world. He believes that God created the world with perfect measure and balance, and that the alchemist's task is to understand and restore that balance. Jabir's work is incredibly patient. He spends months, even years, on a single experiment. He is a master of distillation, refining his alembics to separate liquids with incredible precision. He discovers new acids that can dissolve even gold, which he calls aqua regia, the royal water. But his discoveries are not his primary goal. His true goal is understanding. He develops a new theory, one that will dominate alchemical thought for 1,000 years. He looks at the metals and sees in them not the 4 elements of the Greeks, but 2 fundamental principles. He calls them sulfur and mercury. Now, it is important to understand, he is not speaking of the common yellow brimstone and the quicksilver you might see in a marketplace. For Jabir, sulfur and mercury are philosophical principles, the parents of all metals. Sulfur is the principle of fire, of the soul, of the masculine. It is fixed, active, and dry. It is the quality that makes a metal combustible and gives it its unique character. Mercury, on the other hand, is the principle of water, of the spirit, of the feminine. It is volatile, passive, and wet. It is the quality that gives a metal its fusibility, its malleability, its liquid-like shine. According to Jabir, all metals are born deep within the earth, in the womb of the planet, from the union of this philosophical sulfur and mercury. A perfect, pure, and balanced union of the two creates gold. An imbalanced or impure union creates the lesser metals, silver, copper, lead, tin. They are like sick or unfinished children. The work of the alchemist, therefore, is to act as a kind of physician for the metals. He must take an impure metal, like lead, and gently heal it. He must purify its sulfur and mercury, drive out its impurities, and restore its perfect balance. Only then will it mature into its final, perfect state, gold. This idea is profoundly beautiful. It suggests that the universe is not static. Everything is on a journey towards perfection. The metals deep in the earth are striving to become gold. The alchemist is not forcing nature, but rather accelerating its own secret intention. He is a helper, a midwife to the slow, sacred process of cosmic evolution. And this work on metals is, of course, a perfect mirror for the work on the soul. Within every human being, Jabir would say, there is also a sulfur and a mercury. There is the fiery, active soul and the cool, reflective spirit. When these are in disharmony, when one overpowers the other, the person is in a state of imbalance, of spiritual sickness. The goal of the spiritual life is to purify these inner principles, to bring them into a harmonious marriage, a perfect equilibrium. The alchemist in his laboratory, carefully adjusting the heat of his furnace, is a model for the mystic tending to the inner fire of his own heart. This knowledge continued to flow and deepen. Another great physician and alchemist, Al-Razi, brought a new focus on medicine. He used his alchemical knowledge to create remedies, to distill elixirs, and to classify minerals and chemicals with a new clarity. For him, the ultimate goal of alchemy was not just to perfect metals, but to perfect the human body, to find the elixir of life that could cure all disease and prolong human existence. Then came the great philosopher and physician Ibn Sina, known in the West as Avicenna. He was a towering intellect, a man who wrote on everything from medicine to metaphysics. While he was skeptical about the possibility of transmuting one metal into another, he was a profound believer in the transformative power of alchemy as a spiritual metaphor. He saw the alchemical process as a map of the soul's journey towards enlightenment, its ascent from the darkness of ignorance to the divine light of wisdom. It was during this golden age that one of the most important and enigmatic texts in all of alchemy came to light. It was a short, cryptic text said to be found in the tomb of Hermes Trismegistus himself, inscribed on a single tablet of green emerald, the Emerald Tablet. Its words were few, but they contained the entire philosophy of alchemy. Let us listen to them, not as a puzzle to be solved, but as a poem, a meditation. That which is below is like that which is above, and that which is above is like that which is below, to perform the miracles of the one thing, as above, so below. This is the secret heart of alchemy. It means that the universe is a single, interconnected whole. The great cosmos, the macrocosm, with its planets and stars, follows the same laws as the small world of man, the microcosm. The patterns of the stars are reflected in the patterns of our lives. The processes of nature are reflected in the processes of our souls. The work done in a glass flask, in a laboratory, is a reflection of the great work of creation itself. The alchemist, meditating on these words, understood that he was not an isolated being. He was a part of a vast, resonant web of existence. To purify a metal was to purify a part of the cosmos, and therefore to purify a part of himself. To understand the laws of transformation in his alembic was to understand the laws of spiritual transformation within his own heart. The Emerald Tablet gave the alchemists their ultimate justification and their deepest comfort. Their small, quiet work in their hidden laboratories was not small at all. It was a sacred act, a participation in the divine mystery of the universe. And so the river of knowledge, enriched by the deep currents of Islamic thought, turned its course once more. As traders and crusaders traveled between East and West, they brought back not just silks and spices, but scrolls filled with this strange and wonderful wisdom. In the monasteries and burgeoning universities of medieval Europe, scholars began to translate these Arabic texts into Latin. The secret fire of alchemy, nurtured for centuries in the lands of the sun, was about to be lit in the colder, greener lands of the West. The next stage of the great journey was about to begin. Allow your thoughts to drift on this gentle current. Picture the quiet courtyards of Baghdad, the scent of jasmine and desert dust. Hear the soft bubbling from Jabir's flasks, the scratch of a translator's quill on parchment. There is no need to hold on to any single thought. Just let the story wash over you, a soothing balm for a tired mind. The journey continues, slow and steady, as we follow the light of the alchemist's lamp into the heart of medieval Europe. The arrival of alchemical knowledge in Europe was not a grand procession. It was a quiet infiltration, a series of whispers. It happened in places like Toledo, in Spain, where Christian, Jewish, and Muslim scholars lived and worked side by side. In the scriptoriums of monasteries, Monks, who had dedicated their lives to preserving ancient wisdom, would bend over precious manuscripts, their brows furrowed in concentration. By the flickering light of candles, they painstakingly translated the Arabic of Jabir and Al-Razi and Avicenna into the Latin of the Church. At first, this new knowledge was met with suspicion. It spoke of strange substances and secret processes. But it also spoke in a language that resonated deeply with the medieval Christian mind. It spoke of purification, of redemption, of the transformation of a fallen, imperfect state into one of perfection and grace. It spoke of a hidden spirit locked within matter, waiting to be liberated. For a monk who believed that the divine was present in all of creation, this was not heresy, it was a profound affirmation of his faith. Let us imagine such a man. We will call him Brother Thomas. He lives in a stone monastery perched on a green hill overlooking a misty valley. His life is one of quiet routine, prayer, study, and work. His hands are calloused from tending the monastery's herb garden, and his eyes are tired from long hours spent reading by candlelight. In a small, secluded cell, away from the others, he has built a small furnace, an asterisk Athanor. It is his secret heart, his place of private devotion. For Brother Thomas, alchemy is not about making worldly gold. To him, that would be a sin of avarice. His quest is for the lapis philosophorum, the philosopher's stone. This stone is not merely a substance that can transmute lead into gold. That is its lesser power. Its true power is spiritual. It is a medicine for the soul, a divine elixir that can bring enlightenment, heal all spiritual sickness, and grant a kind of immortality, not of the body, but of the spirit. It is the physical manifestation of divine grace, the tangible proof of redemption. His work is slow, so slow it would seem to a modern mind like a form of madness. He follows the cryptic instructions he has found in the translated texts. They speak in riddles and metaphors. They say, "Take our serpent and slay it, and having flayed it, join its head to its tail." They speak of the green lion, the red king, and the white queen. Brother Thomas understands that these are not literal instructions. They are a symbolic language, a secret code that speaks of spiritual processes. The serpent is the asterisk prima materia, the raw, untamed energy of nature. To slay it and flay it is to break it down, to dissolve it. To join its head to its tail is to create a cycle, a process of eternal circulation and refinement, like the Ouroboros, the snake eating its own tail, a symbol of eternity and wholeness. The heart of Brother Thomas's work, the heart of all European alchemy, is the great work, the tu opus magnum. It is the long and arduous process of creating the philosopher's stone. This work is divided into distinct stages, each marked by a specific color that appears in the alchemical vessel, the sealed glass flask, known as the philosophical egg. These stages are not just chemical reactions, they are a map of the soul's journey towards God. The very first stage, the beginning of everything, is the asterisk nigredo, the blackening. To begin the great work, the alchemist must take his chosen matter, his asterisk prima materia, and place it in the sealed vessel. He then subjects it to a gentle, constant heat in his athanor. For weeks, for months, he watches as the matter within the flask begins to decompose, to putrefy. It breaks down, turning dark, murky, and finally, utterly black. This is the asterisk nigredo. It is often called the stage of the raven, for its color is the black of a raven's wing at midnight. For Brother Thomas, this is a time of great trial and deep contemplation. The blackness in the flask is a mirror of the darkness within his own soul. It is the dark night of the spirit. It is the confrontation with his own shadow, with his pride, his doubt, his despair. It is the process of asterisk solutio asterisk, of dissolution. His old self, his ego, his fixed ideas about the world, must be broken down, dissolved into a formless, chaotic, black mass. It is a necessary death. He must let go of who he thinks he is in order to become who he is meant to be. As he tends the gentle fire of his furnace, keeping it steady through the long nights, he prays. He sees in the asterisk negredo the story of Christ's passion and death, the descent into the tomb. He sees the world returning to the state of primordial chaos before God said, "Let there be light." He knows that this stage of darkness, of decay, of seeming failure, is the most important step of all. Without this death, there can be no resurrection. Without this blackness, there can be no light. He must learn to sit with the darkness, to trust the process, to have faith that life is secretly at work within the decay. The black soil of Chem, the dark fertile mud, has found its way into the heart of a Christian monk in a cold stone cell. After a long time, and no one can say how long, for the work proceeds at its own pace, a change begins to occur. A sign appears. A fine, white layer, like a delicate frost, begins to form on the surface of the black matter. Slowly, gradually, the entire substance in the flask begins to lighten. The black gives way to gray, and the gray to a brilliant, shining, luminous white. This is the second stage, the albedo, the whitening. It is the stage of the white dove, or the white swan. It is the dawn after the longest night. The material has been purified by fire and is now washed clean. This stage is called foul blut eo asterisk, the washing. The alchemist will often distill the liquid in the flask, separating the spirit, which rises as a clear vapor, and then allowing it to condense and fall back down like a gentle rain, washing the dark body below. Again and again this process is repeated, a baptism within the glass. For Brother Thomas, the sight of the albedo is a moment of profound joy and relief. It is the sign of resurrection, of rebirth. The soul, having faced its own darkness in the negredo, has emerged, purified and cleansed. It is a state of innocence, of clarity, of spiritual light. The inner turmoil has ceased, replaced by a deep and abiding peace. He sees in the shining white substance the purity of the Virgin Mary, the white moon that perfectly reflects the light of the sun. The soul is no longer the source of its own light, but has become a perfect mirror for the divine light. The great work is not yet complete, but a crucial turning point has been reached. The darkness has been overcome. The matter and the soul have been redeemed from their fallen state. They have been made pure and receptive, ready for the final stages of the transformation. Between the white and the final red stage, some alchemists spoke of a third, fleeting stage, the asterisk citronitus asterisk, the yellowing. They saw it as the first light of the true sun appearing after the cool, silvery light of the moon. It was the dawning of wisdom, the moment when the purified soul begins to gain true understanding, no longer just reflecting the light, but beginning to shine with a light of its own. It was a brief and beautiful transition, like the color of the sky just moments after sunrise. Finally, the alchemist increases the heat of his furnace. The gentle warmth that produced the white must now become a much stronger fire. Under this intense heat, the white matter begins to transform once more. A blush of color appears, a pale pink, that deepens and deepens until the entire substance in the flask glows with a magnificent, translucent, fiery red. This is the final stage, the asterisk rubido asterisk, the reddening. It is the stage of the phoenix, the mythical bird that is consumed by fire and reborn from its own ashes, more beautiful than before. It is the culmination of the entire great work. The philosopher's stone has been created. For Brother Thomas, this is a moment of mystical ecstasy. The rubido asterisk represents the union of opposites, the sacred marriage. The asterisk conjunctio. The white queen, the purified soul, Mercury, is finally united with the red king, the fiery spirit, sulfur. The moon and the sun, the feminine and the masculine, matter and spirit, human and divine, are joined together in an inseparable, perfect union. The soul is no longer just pure and reflective like in the albedo. It is now active, radiant, and full of divine love. It has been tinctured, infused with the color of spirit, the color of blood, the color of life itself. The work is complete. The lead of the fallen soul has been transformed into the gold of enlightenment. The philosopher's stone, glowing in its flask, is the outward and visible sign of an inward and spiritual grace. Brother Thomas has not created mere gold, He has participated in the divine work of redemption. He has brought one small part of creation and himself back to the state of perfection that existed before the fall. His work from this point on is one of quiet gratitude. He may take a tiny grain of the red powder, the stone, and project it onto a molten base metal, watching in wonder as the lead is instantly transformed into pure, shining gold. But this is just a confirmation, a joyful postscript. The true miracle has already occurred within the flask and within his own heart. The great work is a long, slow, and secret path of devotion, a mystical journey that unfolds in the quiet solitude of the alchemist's soul, mirrored in the slow, colorful transformations within his philosophical egg. Rest now, in this quiet space of completion. Feel the gentle, constant warmth of the Athanor. See the deep, reassuring black of the Negredo, the peaceful, luminous white of the Albedo, and the joyful, radiant red of the Rubido. These are not just colors. They are states of being, stages on a journey that every soul, in its own way, must travel. The path of transformation is long, but it is guided by a secret, inner fire. Just breathe, and let the warmth fill you, a gentle promise of the dawn that always follows the darkness. As the centuries turned, the quiet work of the alchemists began to change. The world around them was changing. The age of faith, with its towering cathedrals and secluded monasteries, was slowly giving way to an age of reason, of exploration, and of science. The secretive, symbolic language of alchemy began to seem obscure and superstitious to a new generation of thinkers who valued clarity, measurement, and observable proof above all else. The alchemist's workshop, once a place of prayer and meditation, a microcosm of the universe, began to split in two. One path led to the modern laboratory. The alchemists, in their patient and meticulous work, had developed many of the tools and techniques that would form the foundation of chemistry. Their alembics, their methods of distillation, crystallization, and sublimation were refined and put to new uses. The search for the principles of sulfur and mercury was replaced by the search for chemical elements. The quest to transmute lead into gold was abandoned for the more practical and predictable work of understanding the reactions of acids, bases, and salts. The soul of alchemy, its spiritual heart, was slowly drained away, leaving only its physical body, its material practices. The alchemist became the chemist, and the great work became the science of matter. But the soul of alchemy did not simply vanish. Its other path led not outward into the material world, but deeper inward, into the hidden landscapes of the human psyche. The alchemists had always known that their work was as much about the soul as it was about substances. They had created a rich and powerful language of symbols to describe the process of inner transformation. The dark night of the Negredo, the purification of the Albedo, the integration of the Rubido. This symbolic language, this map of the soul's journey, was not forgotten. It simply went underground, flowing like a subterranean river, through the works of mystics, poets, and secret societies. They understood that the philosopher's stone was not an external object to be created in a furnace, but an internal state of being to be cultivated in the heart. The prima materia was not a lump of ore, but the raw, unformed, chaotic state of one's own consciousness. The Athanor was not a furnace of bricks and mortar, but the vessel of the human body and mind which contains the gentle, constant fire of life and awareness. Imagine an artist in his studio. He takes his raw materials, dull pigments from the earth, oil from a flaxseed, a blank piece of canvas, and through a long and patient process of mixing, layering, and inspiration, he transforms them into a work of art that can move the soul to tears. He is performing a kind of alchemy. He is taking the base matter of the world and infusing it with spirit, with beauty, with meaning. Imagine a poet, struggling in the darkness with the chaos of language and feeling, a personal Negredo. She wrestles with words, trying to find the precise combination that will capture a fleeting truth. After much effort, a moment of clarity arrives, an albedo, and the poem begins to take shape, pure and luminous. Finally, she infuses it with her passion, her love, her lifeblood, until it glows with a final, resonant power, the rubido. She too is an alchemist, transmuting the lead of ordinary language into the gold of enduring art. And so, the spirit of alchemy lived on, hidden in plain sight. It whispered that true transformation is always an inner process. It reminded us that growth often requires a descent into darkness, a willingness to let go of our old selves, to dissolve our certainties in order to find a deeper truth. It taught that purification is a process of washing, of cleansing, of becoming a clear vessel, and that the ultimate goal is the union of the opposites within us, our light and our shadow, our reason and our intuition, our masculine and feminine energies, our mortal lives, and our immortal spirit. In the early 20th century, the great psychologist Carl Jung rediscovered the writings of the alchemists. He was astonished to find that their strange, symbolic drawings and cryptic texts were a perfect description of the process of psychological healing and growth that he observed in his patients. He called this process individuation, the journey to becoming a whole, integrated self. Jung saw the alchemists not as primitive chemists, but as profound psychologists of the soul. He understood that when an alchemist like Brother Thomas spoke of the Red King and the White Queen, he was projecting his own inner psychological drama onto the matter in his flask. The great work was a mirror. By working on the matter outside himself, the alchemist was secretly, and perhaps unconsciously, working on the spirit within. The Negredo, for Jung, was the encounter with the shadow, the dark, repressed, and unloved parts of our own personality. It is a difficult and painful process, but absolutely necessary for wholeness. The albedo was the purification of the soul after this encounter, the integration of the shadow, leading to a new level of self-awareness and clarity. And the rubido was the final achievement of wholeness. The asterisk conjunctio asterisk, the union of the conscious and the unconscious, resulting in the creation of the self, the psychological equivalent of the philosopher's stone, a state of inner balance, wisdom, and completeness. Through this lens, the entire calm history of alchemy is revealed not as a failed attempt at science, but as a long, continuous, and deeply human quest for inner perfection. The Egyptian priest preserving a body for eternity, the Greek philosopher contemplating the nature of matter, the Islamic scholar seeking the balance of the cosmos, the medieval monk praying over his furnace, they were all, in their own ways, on the same journey. It is a journey that we are all on, whether we know it or not. It is the journey of the soul, striving to transform the lead of its own fear, ignorance, and fragmentation into the shining, incorruptible gold of wisdom, love, and wholeness. And so, our story comes to a gentle close. The candle flame that has lit our way has burned low, its light soft and warm. The river of alchemical history has flowed from the black soil of the Nile, through the sunlit courtyards of Alexandria and Baghdad, into the quiet cells of European monasteries, and finally, into the vast, inner landscape of the human heart. The quest for transformation is not a story of the past. It is a living, breathing process that continues within you, even now, as you rest. Your own breath, the gentle rise and fall of your chest, is a quiet rhythm of alchemy, a constant exchange between the world outside and the world within. Your heartbeat is the steady, gentle fire of your own Athanor, warming you, sustaining you. The great work is not something to be striven for. It is something to be allowed. It happens in the quiet moments, in the patient acceptance of our own darkness, in the gentle washing away of what no longer serves us, in the joyful union of all the disparate parts of ourselves. Damply comes above, so below. The slow turning of the planets in the vast, silent darkness of space is mirrored in the slow, quiet turning of your own thoughts as you drift towards sleep. The cycles of the moon, from new to full and back again, are echoed in the cycles of your own energy, your own moods, your own life. You are not separate from the universe. You are a small, precious part of its great, ongoing work of transformation. There is nothing you need to do. There is nothing to figure out. Simply rest. Let the story dissolve, its images and ideas becoming part of the quiet, fertile darkness behind your eyes. This darkness is not an end. It is the asterisk negredo, the blessed state of dissolution, the rich black soil from which all dreams, all rest, and all new beginnings are born. Trust in this darkness. Trust in the slow, secret work of your own soul. The dawn will come in its own time. The purification will happen gently, like a soft rain. The integration will arrive like the warmth of the morning sun. The lead of your weariness is, even now, being transformed into the gold of deep, peaceful, restorative sleep. Let go. Breathe in and out. The work is happening. All is well. Sleep now. sleep deep,